Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Gurrs, and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and we're just going to jump into the mid-year book freakout tag. No truer words have been spoken than freak out in my personal and bookish life. Alright, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to give you a heads up. I shot all my TBR videos in December, and they're being released seasonally. I'm debating if I should pull the last one. I'm not sure yet. Not only do I work full-time, but I also am back in school, so I think I'm just freaking out about being able to read all the books that I plan to. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm still going to read every month. I'm just concerned that I won't be able to read the same volume or be able to really tackle my agenda, which is to focus on a different author each month and just focus on their work and their life and what themes they were exploring through reading several of their works, literary works. But we'll see. I'm trying to just take everything one day at a time and be more gentle with myself because I'm really hard on myself and I'm trying to back away from doing that. Hopefully you can do that for yourself as well. Alright, so the best book I've read so far of 2023, I couldn't just pick one. I can't even remember. It might have been March. I don't know which month it was that I focused on Hanif Abdurraqib. If I had to pick one book, it would be A Little Devil in America. But he also wrote They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us. I have both editions, the first release and then the 5-year anniversary. And he also wrote Go Ahead in the Rain, Notes to a Tribe Called Quest. I'll stick with A Little Devil in America. And what the author talks about is a praise of black performance, not completely specifically to the United States, but also certain performers that are from the United States but went off to other places, just to kind of expand on that. And what I enjoyed about this book is that it's not just about how an artist performs, but how people have to perform, specifically black artists, in order to navigate a racist society. He talks about so much more, but his writing is incredible because he is a social and music critic, and something that he does so well is he weaves himself into the stories, but in a way that I feel really works and provide context. And this author is just such a deep feeling human being. And if you watch my other video where I discuss this writer, you know that this author has become my literary crush. He's up there. I love his writing, and I'm gonna jump at whatever he writes. And the other book that he wrote, it's kind of hard to choose because I love all of them. Go Ahead in the Rain, Notes to a Tribe Called Quest. Even if you're not familiar with A Tribe Called Quest, I would say pick this up. Play their music as you read what the author has to say. And once again, it's just not focusing on the work of the musicians, but the influences of that music, the origins, the history of that music. And yeah, it's just really beautiful. And also, once again, the author inserts himself as a fan and explores his love and maybe his past critiques of the musicians and how the author feels about them now. Yeah, so I'll stop there because I'll talk about all his work. But that would be the best book that I've read of 2023. is between those two. Alright, I have not read any sequels. I am right at the end of reading a trilogy, but I don't really want to discuss that in this video just yet. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to discuss Woman of Life by Kylie Fajardo Anstein. I forget how to say her last name, and I did have to correct myself before. So sorry if I'm saying her name wrong. This is the author's debut novel, but it is their second book. They first put out a short story collection. This is in the vein of writing a Western, and it follows Luce through what I want to say is, oh gosh, what is it called? Oh, that's right. So this is when the United States is developing, so she's in the Lost Territories. So it's in that in-between between land that was once Mexico will eventually become the United States. And I like reading this book because the author uses Luce as a way to witness complex topics like misogyny, colonialism, and what was going on with her own family. A lot of this is touching upon the own author's heritage, and what I really love about this book, beyond other Westerns, is that I felt like it was more true to not necessarily just what life was, but she has characters of all different cultures, as so many people were migrating and settling to what we now know as the United States. And I feel like not all books capture this, and when the author talks about people being discriminated against, she's just not focusing into a lens that focuses on one culture. She talks about many people that are being discriminated against, and I thought that was really important, and I appreciate, and I hope that more authors would read this book and pick up on that. So yeah, I really love this. I had to cheat with this one because I haven't really read any sequels this year. Let me see. There is a new release that's come out. I just saw it. I was window shopping at Barnes & Noble. I have the information on my phone, and I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try pulling it up here. Let's see if I can do it. Hopefully you could see it. I think it might be too small. It's called Sipping Dom Perignon Through a Straw, Reimagining Success as a Disabled Achiever, and it's by Eddie Ndopu. I love the cover. It's so cool. I'm going to read you 2 paragraphs about this book that just captivated me when I went into the store, but I stopped myself from buying it. I'm going to wait until maybe next year when this becomes paperback, but we'll see, because it looks really good. Alright, so the synopsis is: global humanitarian Eddie Ndopu was born with spinal muscular atrophy, a rare degenerative motor neuron disease affecting his mobility. He was told that he wouldn't live beyond age 5, and yet Ndopu thrived. He grew up loving pop music, lip-syncing the latest hits, and watching The Bold and the Beautiful for the haute couture, and was the only wheelchair user at his school, where he flourished academically. By his late teens, he had become a sought-after speaker, traveling the world to address audiences about disability justice. Ndopu was ecstatic when he was later accepted on a full scholarship into one of the world's most prestigious schools, Oxford University, but he soon learns that it's not just the medical community he must thwart, It's an educational one too. So I was just looking at that cover. I thought it was really cool, and I liked that the bottle of, I guess, champagne it's just like exploding behind him. And yeah, so I really want to read that. There's something about reading the synopsis and looking at the cover that I'm gravitating to and is making me feel very joyful. And I always like books and gravitate towards books that have that mix of like happy, sad, you know. So yeah, that's definitely a book I look forward to reading. It's on the shelf. If you're interested, go pick it up. And I just realized as I'm recording, my air conditioner is on, and I'm sure it's really loud, and I forgot. Sorry about that. I totally forgot that was on. Alright, so I'm so glad for the freakout tag, because I would say last month or the month before, I did discuss some anticipated reads, and I feel like this is giving me an opportunity to rectify two books that I wanted to talk about that I didn't. So there are two books that are part of my anticipated reads. I'm not going to mention all the other ones because I've discussed them before. I'm just trying to talk about ones that I haven't. And the first one is Game On. Let me see. I have it back here. Hopefully you can see that. It's by Ceresia Glass. I read her other book that was called The Love Con. It was so cute. I'm not big on romance, but that was one of the few romances I've ever read that I was actually interested in, really enjoyed, and really just solidified her as an author that I know I'm going to want to continue to read. Alright, so I looked up the synopsis so I could read it to you. So for Game On, it says, when an unexpected player 2 enters her life, a gamer must decide if her relationship is worth leveling up in this new romance from the author of The Love Con. Samara Reynolds has built a large following as a gamer under an anonymous screen name and uses her skills as a DEIA consultant to advocate for equal representation in video games. When she posted a video critiquing the popular game Legend Falls, she knew she'd get a reaction from her fans, but the video leads to hundreds of female gamers critiquing the game and its company, Artemis Games. The only thing more unexpected than starting an online movement is getting a job offer from the handsome CEO of Artemis. So I don't know if this is gonna be a enemies to lovers type tale, which I am not a fan of, which is why I liked which is why I like The Love Con so much, because it was more of a friendship to lovers, and I'm realizing that I'm way more interested in that than the enemies to lovers trope. But I enjoyed her writing so much that I think that I'm gonna give this one a try. I have a feeling I'm gonna like it anyways. Alright, so the other book that I didn't talk about is from the Stygian collection. It's not out yet. It comes out in August, and I actually think The Love Con, I'm mixing it all up. Game On comes out in November, and the Stygian collection comes out in August, I think, and I have it over here. I wanted to pick this up for two reasons. One is that I'm really enjoying anthologies or short story collections written by a bunch of different authors. That really piques my interest, and I really love reading that kind of material between full-length novels. And also reading that really gives me an opportunity to read from authors that I would otherwise maybe not be looking out to reading. And secondly, one of their writers is Margaret Pinard, and she also has a YouTube channel that I follow, and I tend to enjoy her live reviews of books, as well as join her sprints. And so she's one of the writers for the Stygian collection, and I'm just not familiar with Stygian, and so once I heard about this book and started reading up on it, it just sounded interesting and something that's up my alley. One of these days, I will get into material that is more happy. I'm really not. I look at my shelves, and just the other day, my daughter was trying to sleep and she wanted me to read her something but like pleasant. And I realized every time I gravitate towards a book, it's really not like pleasant material. And so at some point I'm going to have to change that. I'm also really into nonfiction these days. And there's plenty of my work that's nonfiction that's on my shelf that I'm going to have to read. So anyways, let's look up the Stygian collection on my phone so I could read you the synopsis. Alright, so I looked it up on StygianSociety.com, and it says, do you dare confront the demons lurking in the Stygian depths of the human psyche? Step into the shadows with 24 fresh voices, each offering their own unique twist on the meaning of Stygian. In this debut publication, you'll find yourself immersed in a diverse range of tales that explore the depths of human emotion. From dark horror and murder mysteries to surreal poetry and philosophical musings, each story is a unique journey into the unknown. Experience the vengeful poem that unleashes Dante's wild spirit, the melancholy memory of railway tracks, and the young witch who discovers the true power of flames. From the ancient past to the dystopian future, the Stygian collection promises to take you down a dark and winding path. Where it leads, that's up to you to find out. And that just sounds so interesting, and also sounds like such an array, such a vast landscape of material that's going to be explored. And I just, I'm interested in it, and it will definitely be something that I'm going to read between full-length novels. It'll just be a really good kind of, yeah, break from full-length novels that I'll really enjoy. Alright, from there I have to talk about my disappointments, which I'm not a fan of, and I'm trying to break away from having an issue with this because ultimately I have a channel where I talk about books and review books. And that is Sandra Cisneros' The House on Mango Street, which is a beloved book. It's taught in schools, and I could completely understand why. It's written in vignettes, telling the story of a young character, and it's like a coming of age. I should know this. I think it's in Chicago, and how in her community there's a discussion of misogyny. How should I say this? RAPE culture. I'll just say that. The pressures from society about the expectations that are put on women, and how people can get stuck in cycles, and it's hard to break away those cycles, right? Especially when a society is set up to hold women down. When this is definitely a book that I guess you could say you could pick up and definitely lends itself to conversations, which is why the author wrote this book, and I can understand why it's such a great pick to discuss at schools. But for me, just reading it for pleasure, I just found that the pacing left me getting stuck and not being engaged. And I think it's because of the choice of being written in a vignette style. Once again, I understand that since it's written as vignettes, that allows for discussions to happen in between, right? So I could picture how this could be a book that a school would want to use to teach. But I just found it so hard to get through. It just was so slow for me. And that's pretty rare. Usually, if a book is a slow pace, as long as I could feel like there's a reason for it, I will totally just continue to read it. And I did continue to read this, but by the end of it, I really wasn't into it, which was a bummer. And I know it's just not me because my daughter read it before me, and she used that book to discuss in class because it was on my shelf, and she felt the same way. It was just so difficult to get through because the pacing is so slow. And so unfortunately that is not an author I'm really into. I tried reading like 2 other works by her, and I don't know. I think she had a recent poetry collection that came out this year or last year, and I did enjoy that. I think it was called Women Without Shame. I enjoyed that the most out of the other work that I read, but again, she's just not my cup of tea. All right, and I'd have to say the biggest surprise of the year was I Keep My Exoskeleton to Myself by Marissa Crane. This was not on my list to read this year, but I absolutely love this book. There's an author, I don't want to do this again because I totally forgot her name, Danielle Binks, okay? This is like the 3rd time I brought her up. Danielle Binks is someone that I follow on Instagram. I think I just like the material that she has on her posts and stories, and I didn't even realize that she's also an author and publisher till later. I think she was doing some sort of promotion, and I put the 2 and 2 together. I did not realize, but I think she writes middle grade books, so maybe at some time I'll cover her, but that's going to be a project way down the line. So I picked up I Keep My Exoskeleton to Myself. It's speculative fiction at a time where the US has put itself in a position to be upheld by a dictatorship, so our democracy has really been dismantled through propaganda, and so people are punished in a very arbitrary way as far as the reasoning goes, and when they're punished, they're issued a second shadow, and so this leads to stigma and discrimination, and it's very much in the vein of The Scarlet Letter and Minority Report. That's the only example I could really think of. And so the main character, Chris, is a mother, and her wife has died, and her baby has been issued a shadow, and she herself also has a shadow. They're called shadesters. And so now she's mourning the death of her wife, all the while trying to navigate being a parent, trying to navigate society. And not only we do see the stigma of shadesters, but also we see the stigma that the main character goes through for being a gay woman. And there's a balancing act going on in this book, which is mourning, being a mother, dealing with being ostracized by society in different ways and different levels. And what really holds her together is found family, and just also seeing herself as existing in the world as a form of activism when the world doesn't want her to exist, when the world is against her. I thought that was really beautiful, and I also really love the sprinkling of, I want to say, experimental writing that the author uses. Right away we know that the wife is dead, but also that she had like an educational background. She was a teacher, and so when I say experimental, at some points the author will write in a way as though there's like pop quizzes, and I feel like that's a way to have the presence of the dead mother throughout the book, and I felt like that was done really beautiful. The word that comes to me is poignant, but I know that's an overused word, but that's just what comes to me. And what's it? It's the first paragraph that I think really got me, and so I'm going to read it to you. The kid is born with 2 shadows. You better believe I head straight down to the Department of Balance office to appeal their decision. It isn't right, giving an extra shadow to a baby. It's not like she killed you on purpose, Beau. She's a newborn baby, for fuck's sake. She's basically a more sophisticated potato. And that's exactly what I tell the receptionist, resting his boots on top of his desk. He is long and slender, with a droopy face. Where's a father, he says. I'm her other mother, I say, trying to steady my pulse. I always hate this moment of vulnerability, of simultaneously waiting for and anticipating a reaction. And so that alone got me to read this book. I picked it up, I breezed through it. Once again, this author was not my radar, and I absolutely love this book. And I look forward to everything else this author writes. Apparently they've written some other work, but I haven't gone to it yet. And I wasn't sure if I was going to say that this is my new favorite author, but I decided to choose Michelle Zauner, who wrote Crying in H Mart. And so it was a toss-up between this book and Marissa Crane's book. So Michelle Zauner, if you don't know her, she's the singer of Japanese Breakfast, and she writes about her complicated relationship with her mother, and also her complicated relationship with her own culture, being someone that's biracial. And she also discusses how those complicated feelings and unpacking that also leads her to evaluate how colonialism has played a role in that. And it's not until her mother is diagnosed with cancer that she puts everything on hold to take care of her mother, but also become reacquainted and re-engage with her Korean culture. And mostly that's done through food, which I also enjoyed. But yeah, so it's really beautifully written, and the way that the author writes grief and painful emotions through like visual metaphors really grip me. And so if she writes anything else, I'm definitely going to read it. As far as I know, this is being made into, I don't know if it's being into, oh, excuse me, a movie or like a TV series, but it is being adapted. I know that much. And the director has been chosen already. So yeah, I think I've gone through it. This is my freak out tag. It's such a freak out that this is also late. This is like a month behind, I think. But yes, if you're out there and you are also freaking out, I hope that you would just try to be kind to yourself. As I'm talking to you, I'm petting my cat. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below, and if there are any particular authors that have really blown you away this year so far, I'd really like to hear about that. And so I'll talk to you next time.